little video to go along with words for words, let silent words be heard. I'm Helen, better known as Charlie's little mate Samuel's mama, and I'm only going to do a few short little videos because I'm in my 25th year now of living with autism. I've gone from high functioning autism to very low functioning autism. I won't say I'm an expert, but if there's something the boys go through, I can pretty much say I've been there. You know, I've faced that, I've done that. Unless you spend day and night with a child with autism, no matter how much you think you know about this illness, spectrum, whatever you want to call it, you just can't imagine what it takes to raise a child with autism. Saying that, I think everybody who has a child with autism would say the same as what I'm about to say. If Samuel didn't have autism, he wouldn't be Samuel. Charlie wouldn't be Charlie. It makes them so special, so endearing, hard work, but there's something about it that your heart, they are your walking heart, basically. I can say that my first autistic experience was from birth. I knew from birth there was something wrong with my son. I didn't know what, but I knew there was something. Screaming 24 hours a day. I already had an older son. I knew there was, you know, it wasn't something I was doing. I thought I was a good parent, but being a single parent, that got blamed a lot. So the first thing you're going to come across is finding an understanding person, an understanding doctor to begin with. Then you get your referral. Trust your instincts. Really trust your instincts. You are the parent, and parents are very, very rarely wrong. You will know in your heart that there is something different about your child. After 7 years of doctors, different schools, thinking, let's put him in a bigger school, he might find friends, attacks on his siblings, we finally got the diagnosis of Asperger's. Now, I'm not happy with what's happened with the autistic name over the last couple of years. I'm not in agreement with everything now being put in under AS, autistic spectrum. I'm sorry, but you cannot compare somebody with behavioural problems or just hyperactivity or slow speech, for example, with a fully autistic child. The same as having an Asperger's child is totally different to having a low functioning autistic child. I don't like the fact it's all being clumped together for two reasons. The word autistic is used far too much, in my opinion. Too many people, too many children. my son was diagnosed, it was 1 in 100. Now it's something like 1 in 10. And because of this, I feel that, I'm not saying not all children aren't deserving, because they are, but I feel that those that are in desperate need, of urgent need, to be diagnosed and need that help, the families that seriously need that help now, are having to wait horrendous times because everybody is under autistic spectrum. Back to my 7-year-old. Attempts on his life, suicidal tendencies, because all he wanted was friends. He thought everybody hated him. It was horrendous, horrendous, and he was very much loved. We went to hell and back, basically. Finally got him into an autistic school at the age of 9, but it was only primary. There was 15 places for 250, 300 children with autism in secondary, and that was down south. So it doesn't matter where you live, down south, up north, Midlands, it doesn't matter. There just isn't enough out there for our children. I was lucky. James was able to find friends. We still had some really, really bad issues. Puberty, when he started puberty, that was horrendous. Excuse me while I get comfy. He got to the point where he had to go weekly to see the psychiatrist, sometimes refusing to get out of the car completely. We had a fantastic psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever, and he would actually go and sit in the car with James. Unfortunately, it got to the point where his anger and his attempts on his life got too much, and they decided that he needed to be an inpatient. This has got to have been one of the hardest things that ever happened to my family. I used to have to drive him up to London every Monday morning and leave him in an institute, basically, with padded rooms. Leave my baby and then drive home, and then every Friday drive back to London, collect my son and take him home. But on the positive, having the daily 24-hour specialist care seemed to work. I've known others that it hasn't worked for. I've had ever so many messages from families, because at one point we had to go to the papers because of what my child was suffering at school. The horrendous, they even refused to statement him after he'd been diagnosed. And I did the one thing I could do, which was to name and shame. I didn't enjoy it, but I did it. That made quite a lot of parents get in touch with me, which is what I know Dean and Amy are hoping to do with the Let Silent Words Be Heard, Words for Words, to let families be able to reach out, just to know that somebody's doing or going through what they're going through, or maybe someone who's been there and can help. I got touched by a lady. At this time, my son had turned 13. Her little boy, called James, had succeeded. He'd locked himself in the garage at 14 years old and he'd turned the car on. 2 other parents contacted me saying that they'd lost their children between the ages of 11 and 17. Now this only went out in a local paper. So that's the side of high functioning autism that you have to deal with. Very, very intelligent children. But all my little boy used to say to me was, I would say to him, 7-year-old, why do you want to die? Because God's nice, Mum. Yes, I know God's nice. And I'll go to heaven. Yes, you'll go to heaven, darling. Well, if God's nice and I go to heaven, God will have to find me some friends. And that is genuinely how my child thought. Thankfully, he's now 24, nearly 25. He's living independently. He's working. He's driving. He is fantastic at his job. And I am the proudest person on this earth. I swear to you, up until the age of 16, 17, I thought James would live with me for life. Full stop. I thought he'd either be a bin man, because all he ever used to do was bring home treasures. Bottle tops, nails, screws. Very particular about which jar they went in, and he knew if you'd been in his room, etc. To a boffin. You know, I just didn't know. We also had a friend who was going through it. Their son, unfortunately, was 18. Some boys had got hold of him one night and told him they were playing cops and robbers, and they actually got him to burgle a post office, an 18-year-old autistic child, with a knife. He didn't know. He didn't know. His poor parents. But these are some of the sad parts of high functioning autism. There's been many, many happy times, and I still get a lot of pleasure. And I look at him and I think, we did it, we got there. So if there's one thing I want to say tonight about the high functioning, the Asperger's and things like that, is there is an end to the rainbow. There is a pot of gold, and regardless of what you're going through at the moment, you will get there. I'm living proof. Then I have my grandson, my beautiful grandson Samuel. He's now 8, and he's Charlie's best friend. We love little Charlie Bear. I made the decision last year to move Samuel from a mainstream school to a special needs school. Very hard decision, very hard decision. This is something again that a lot of parents are going to struggle with. When to do it, whether to do it. Is it best to keep your child among children who he may learn from, or is it best to put in a place where the staff know more? And that's something that only you can decide as an autism parent. All these things, PEPs, personal education plans, and special education needs, SEN and statementing, and all these little letters, and your brain will be fried. But all I can say is take one at a time. Find out everything about it, like a PEP, personal educational plan, or SEN, there are special educational needs. And then they have other things, lots of little letters that they like to group together just to confuse everybody. You know, SENCO, Special Education Needs Coordinator, MPAT, Multiple Professional, can't even think, multi-professional assessment. You know, it's where you've got all your professionals in a room at one time and they all get to look at your child. Don't stress about forgetting the logos, the words, the meanings. I would just say, take a breath. Whoever it is you're seeing next, look into it, see what it is, exactly what they do, what they offer, and what they're going to do for your child. Now, I'm not going to go on much longer tonight because, like I say, I've only just touched on the outskirts of the two sectors that I've lived. Samuel now is non-speech. He does say the odd word. He's still in nappies. He's a big boy. I think you find with autistic children, they seem to be either on the heavy side or on the slim side, and it's all to do with, a lot of it is to do with what they will and won't eat. Exercise, toe walking. Again, with Samuel, he's been toe walking for so long now that we're waiting for specialist shoes to be made for him to try and correct the shortness of his ligaments at the back of his legs because they haven't been able to stretch out. There are so many areas to cover, and like I say, there's just so much that I know you as parents of autistic children go through every day. Not being able to take a phone call. You are walking on eggshells 24 hours a day, because as Dean mentioned earlier in his blog, the slightest little thing, the tiniest little pinprick, the tiniest little, what we wouldn't even notice, can make a perfectly normal day turn into Armageddon, basically. You know, we've had a few Armageddons and it's taken me days to work out what set this off. But you find out and you work your way through it, and you know, you can laugh about it afterwards while you're going through it. You know, you're sort of like me at the moment, you know, absolutely knackered, my hair's falling out with pulling at it, and but the love that I feel for that child, you know, if I had, you just cannot express it. You cannot express it. And the love that you get back off our children is amazing. For those of you out there that don't have autistic children, or maybe just work with autistic children, or children on the autistic spectrum, you'll know yourselves to get that first smile, to get that first eye contact, to get that first word. The slightest little thing that kicks them off can also make your millennium. Samuel told me the other day through a fantastic program that he was frustrated. Now, where Samuel got this word from, I do not know. He's non-communicative. But the biggest word with an autistic child is frustration, because they cannot get across to us what they're feeling, whether they're hurting, whether they're hungry, whether they're thirsty, you know, if they've got an upset tummy or a headache. For Samuel to press that button and tell me frustrated blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind. And it's things like that that make getting up in the morning and doing it all over again, not knowing if we're going to have happy dancing, singing, playing, cuddles, or whether we're going to have no shins left, the house in tatters. You know, it just depends how your boy decides to wake up in the morning, or girl. It's just more a boy associated illness syndrome, sorry. I don't have the correct words for it, I just say it as I see it. But like I say, I'm in my 25th year of autism this year, and if anybody wants to ask any questions, as Dean has said, and Amy's sister, or you have any thoughts or any tips, or you just need that somebody who understands what you're going through. I only met Dean and Amy a month, 2 months ago, but just knowing there's somebody down the road who goes through what you go through every day is fantastic, because you don't have to sit for 2 hours and give them only 3% of your life. They already know what your life is. So I'll leave it there for now. Like I say, Helen, most people call me Elle. Sorry about this, but obviously there's only certain times of the day that I am able to do this. Hats off to Dean and Amy for doing this every day, because I just couldn't imagine it. I couldn't imagine it. But Samuel's had a good week at school this week with Charlie, on the minibus with Charlie, very busy as usual, making their little Valentine's hats today, and my boy can have my hat anytime. So I'll see you soon, and hopefully give you another little blog next week with a little bit more information. Until then, see you later.